opportunity to speak. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and introduce the ABCT program and welcome Larry Du Bois, who's here, and a recent alum of the program. He started nanoionics, and that's going to be the real treat today, is to hear from Larry. But before we get into that, we'd like to speak about the program overall. A Fairfield alum participated in the program last year. Winston DiMartini was in the program, and we really enjoyed his biosensor program. He's hired a bunch of software engineers this summer and is really moving along with his startup, PhysiSense. So Connecticut is a place where there are a lot of innovators, and it's been a real pleasure to be here in the state I grew up in, working with the innovators in biosciences. We are a program that, as Doug said, was started by the state of Connecticut. And I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about what we've learned and what we've been able to work with the founders in the state with you today. So let's get going. Larry Du Bois is here. He is the founder of nanoionics, and he will be talking about his nanomaterial, and which has many wonderful properties, and his timing couldn't be better, including antiviral properties. And he'll be chatting about his company and startup. But before we get to Larry, I'd like to explain a little bit about the program. So our program in 2019 and 2020 until March was a program that really spent a lot of time meeting people. So on the left side, you see the number of people who got together for the program kickoff. It's a lot of people. We pivoted to a virtual program, and we've gotten better at doing virtual. We still have a way to go, but this program allows us to do and bring together some people in really extraordinary ways now. So we had a hospital reverse pitch, and you might think, okay, what's that mean? The hospitals, Hospital for Special Surgery, Northwell Health, the largest hospital system in New York State, the Montefiore Hospital system and White Plains Hospital presented the technologies that they were looking for and the resources they would be able to bring to an innovator who would collaborate with them. It was a fantastic opportunity that the Connecticut teams were able to work with, and this coming year, we will be able to work additionally with Memorial Sloan Kettering and also Gaylord here, the rehab hospital in Wallingford, as well as Connecticut Children's Hospital. So this is one of the things that's been kind of evolving as a result of the pandemic. To give you kind of a brief synopsis of what the program is, this is a program we're in that has 5 phases. We're in the first phase right now, which is outreach. We have info sessions. You get a chance to hear a synopsis of the program from me and hear from an alum, from Larry. If you're interested in applying, we highly recommend that you attend a workshop called Strengthening Your Application. That workshop goes through the different questions and shares with you what we have learned from the external reviewers about their needs for clarity and their impressions of what different answers mean. So draft your answers, come to that workshop for an hour, refine your application, and then submit it. You'll be doing yourself a great favor. The deadline for the program this year is October 25th. On the 27th, we start external screening. So each application is matched to a scientist reviewer, to an investor reviewer in the area of the innovation, and finally to a strategy person. Following that, there are reference calls to 3 personal references that each applicant provides. And then there are finalist interviews that are held December 1, 2, and 3. All of these are going to be virtual. We are hoping after invitations go out that by January we will have an in-person program, but we're expecting the program to be virtual through 2021. In January, we start the 3rd phase of the program, which is the education. We run a 6-day boot camp, 2 days a week for 3 weeks. The full schedule with each of the days is on the abct.co website. Madeline will share that website link. After that, in February, we have weekly coaching sessions. So each of the people who is invited to participate is assigned a coach. They work with 2 other teams and they meet weekly to refine and advance their venture. At the same time, there are remote or virtual workshops, and there is mentorship. We have 4 events that are in person, 1 a month. We call them roundtables. They allow you to meet in person with people who can help you build your business. And then May 12th, we have a pitch day. After that, we have a debrief where we talk to everybody who's been involved in the program, and we make plans for changing it for the following year. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of what the program is. When we do the debrief, we ask all the participants, what are the top reasons that you would recommend the ABCT program to a friend or to a colleague? And the number 1 is networking. So we want to tell you a little bit about what we mean by networking, but right on the heels of networking is coaching and content. So coaching is this weekly meeting that you have with 2 other people, 2 other founders, and then content is the combination of the boot camp and the workshops. So this is what the people who have gone through the program this last year say they would recommend. So let's just talk about what does networking mean. So we give an example. A venture that was spun out of Yale called Control Trial. It's a clinical trial patient recruitment software tool with AI and NLP, machine learning. It is scraping the data off of electronic health records, matching it to profiles that clinical trials are looking for, and it is providing that in a clinical setting. So the Guanan attended, and he developed his proof of concept with the Smilo Cancer Center in New Haven, and found out as he was spending the spring with us developing his business that his venture was cutting the time by 18, so it was 1/18 the amount of time to identify candidates to participate in clinical trials. So that's a significant time savings for people who are very busy in a cancer treatment clinic. So what does networking mean to Guanan? Guanan met people who were from his cohort, in other words, other founders of these companies that you see the logos for. He met some of the corporate supporters, and we'll talk a little bit about their role in the program. And he met mentors. These are people who volunteer to be in the program. They're here to help, and they want to see these ventures succeed because they're looking to have new ventures come into Connecticut, to grow in Connecticut, and to be successful. And then the speakers who participate offer virtual office hours. So this is one-on-one opportunity for the founders to talk about specific issues to them with the speakers who have come to the program. So you can see very specific set of people on average, it's like 12 connections. But let's look at another type of innovation. Sonacure, Chandra Karunakaran, is developing an ultrasound-based cancer therapy device. Her set of connections in the cohort, very different than who Gwenon connected to. A few different corporate supporters. Mentors were almost entirely different ventures, and virtual office hours were also different ventures. So her connections are different than what we saw from Gwenon. Another case study is for a product that you almost could consider a consumer device. It's a refrigerated container to preserve medication at appropriate temperatures. So this team was originally out of Puerto Rico. They moved to Houston, so they went through a hurricane, and then they went through the power outages in Houston, and they were very familiar with the challenges for people to both access their medicine and then have their medicine be maintained at a temperature that would ensure that it was still helpful to the patients. So as you can see, the connections that Insu Health Design made were very different in the cohort, in the corporate sponsors, specifically the mentors and the virtual office hours, really different people. So that's that. When we talk about the networking being number one, those profiles of the individual participants is one way of looking at it. Another is looking at it from the board who supports this program. And from the very top, we've been given support of the time and the connections and the experience from the board of the ABCT program to work and support the entrepreneurs who come through the program. So this is a cross-section of hospital, lawyers, accountants, major pharma, entrepreneurs, government who are part of this board. The corporate supporters come in because they are either looking for technology to help them fill strategic directions that they're looking for. They may be lawyers who have an intellectual property practice and they're interested to meet the inventors who come through the program. They may be corporate attorneys who have experience both at forming companies and also at engaging and concluding contracts so that the ventures can get access to the intellectual property through a license from research institutes or make engagements with partnerships or sub-licensing of their intellectual property. Markham is involved as an accountant. And we see, a large multinational bank that's involved, a CRO that has operations in China and the United States and in Europe is involved. A company that does, it's Synectic here in Woodbridge and in Vermont, does 3D printing and modeling and short run production for new products, is also involved in the program, providing support to the participants who are in. One of the questions that people ask is what is the education that you're going to receive from this? When we talk about people like the education or the content, here we're trying to summarize all the different kinds of education that goes on, from pitch days to boot camp workshops, to alum events, to webinars and workshops, to office hours. What we've seen is a growth in the last 4 years, a significant growth in the number of engagements. And a lot of that's also been driven by the technology that's allowed us to create easy to schedule one-on-one sessions with experts. So we've now built a back-end database to help make those connections and to help schedule those for participants in the program. Now, one of the questions is, people often ask is, well, who's in this program? we are looking for biosciences related innovations. It turns out that they're not consistent year to year. Where the innovations happen, what the number of applications are within these fields. Initially, we thought we would see a lot of health IT and therapeutics, and honestly, we didn't see very many health IT. That has really been something that has grown. Sometimes we have materials ventures. Other times we have research tool ventures. It's not the same year to year. We also have seen in the last 3 years a combination of technologies where a medical device might also be combined with a bioinformatics tool and maybe some materials that are doing some sensing. So the categories aren't even the same as when we started 9 years ago. But one of the advantages of all of this is that we are very used to going out when people apply, when we invite to then go find mentors and coaches who have experience in these areas and having them brought in for that coming year's event. So one of the other things that happens, this is a program that is sponsored by the state of Connecticut. The intention is to be able to create new businesses. And if you look at this, you can see that in most years, the ventures who come in, they end up forming. Not all of the companies who come in are brand new. Between 11 and 27% of the participants are getting their first customer revenue. So for some ventures, they're actually starting to sell and they're looking to sort out what that sales process is going to be like. This is a program that doesn't provide funding to participants. What it does is it teaches people how to prepare for growing their company, build a strategy, build a business plan. That might require people to raise some money, it might not. That's really up to the founders, how they want to do this, if they want to bootstrap it, if they want to raise some funding. And it also takes a lot of work to get to the place where a seed investor or an angel investor might decide to put some money into you. So when we look back at the alums of the program, one of the things that we see is that if you were to look at the ABCT alums and alums from the other program that we've run in New York City called eLab, and you were to look at how many of them were funded by angel and seed investors between 2018 and 2020, you'd see that they would be the second source of deal count in the country. Now, why is that? That seems really high. In part, it's because Connecticut Innovations is so active in the earliest seed stage for biosciences. So about half of the people who come through the ABCT program are ultimately funded by CT, either CT Next in the proof of concept fund, the new proof of concept fund, or through the BioInnovate pipeline, or from the Connecticut Innovations Fund. So, we've been very, very fortunate who we've been able to work with, and they, the opportunity for people who are coming through as a first-time founder is to actually join this group of alums and get a chance to hear from them about what their journey was like, and to be able to make connections with them as you're building your own venture. So a lot of fantastic connections within the cohort, and a lot that you'll learn from the cohort. In Connecticut, in the last 4 years, so the 4th year we just finished a couple of months ago, just under 50 million has been raised by 38 ventures. When you look at that, people start pretty small. When they've come through the program, they might win a business plan competition grant for $15,000. They might work really hard to get a special award from a federal government. They may get $100,000. But the challenge is you have to get these first amounts of money to go on to get some others. So when you hear about people who are raising $1 million or $5 million or $20 million, there's a lot that's come up before they've gotten to that place. So, one of the things that's been really exciting is to see these ventures go forward. And it's not a guarantee. To get any of this is a lot of work. So just to give you kind of a sense of in Connecticut, it's really been extraordinary to see how fast people have moved along. For some organizations that get funded, their technology is coming out of a university. And one of the things that we look at is that university need a license to the startup in order to use that technology or patent in the new company. If that is a situation, then what we do is we talk to the tech transfer offices at the Academic Research Institute to ensure that the venture is one that has the right to proceed, that the university is supportive of their application and is willing to enter into negotiation or give a waiver of a license to the startups so that they can proceed with the development in a commercial way. This is for some applicants, something we go through. With others, it's not an issue at all. If you have any questions, you can feel free to talk with us about it. Now, this is a time that we'd like to have Larry speak with you. Larry Dubois is here from NanoIonics. He was a member of the 2021 program for ABCT, and we're really thrilled to have him here today to share what it was that, where he was, what his technology is, what stage he was at when he started, what he gained from the program, and what he's doing now. He's a very busy guy, so we're very, very happy to see Larry here tonight to speak with all of you, and then we'll take some questions afterward. Thank you very much, Larry. I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Mary. So let's see where to start. At NanoIonics, we developed ViraShell, which is a family of antiviral, antibacterial, antimicrobial ceramic materials, and they work incredibly well. Now we know that. When we first started the program, that was not the case. We had a challenge starting the company, and this is something I think you really do learn in the ABCT program. We started the company in January of 2020 with a focus on advanced ceramic materials for batteries. We moved into our lab in Farmington at the Yukon TIP facility, which, by the way, is fantastic if anybody needs lab space. We moved in February, and we were shut down in March because of the pandemic. And so we sort of scratched our heads going, okay, what do we do now? And we pivoted big time with the realization that our technology not only has some interesting applications in batteries, but a variant of that technology actually has antimicrobial properties. And so I'm trying to think. I mean, I can spell DNA, so that's a good thing. But the last biology class I took was in high school, and that was probably 50 years ago. So we needed to learn something about biology and about applications. We teamed with a professor at Yukon who's a virologist, did preliminary testing of our material, and it worked quite well. At that point, we were writing SBIR, Small Business Innovative Research Grant proposals. We applied for the biopipeline, and we applied into the ABCT program, figuring that if we're going to do anything biologically related, we needed to learn a lot more. By the time the program started, we had won our first SBIR, we won biopipeline, and we were kind of off and running, but again, didn't know a lot about the application areas in the healthcare space, and that's really where we focused on in the program. And as Mary said, it was a tremendous opportunity for us, not only to learn sort of about the application space, but having the right group of coaches and mentors and seminars and just really forcing us to think about what we were doing, why we were doing, how to go after what we were doing, how to talk to customers, et cetera, et cetera. And so we learned just a tremendous amount, not just by listening, but also by doing. And Mary and her team have an amazing ability to connect participants with people who can really help. And it's not everybody, right? You talk to a lot of people, you kiss a lot of frogs, but you do find those few really special people that can make a difference in your company and move you forward at a rapid pace. So going through the program, which is real time commitment, and but certainly worthwhile. We were also executing on our phase 1 SBIR proposal, which is pretty much a full-time job in itself, and raising money, which was another full-time job. So we had a lot going on simultaneously. And during the course of the program, we signed a joint development agreement with a Fortune 200 company, which was fantastic because they can help us scale up the manufacturing of our material, as well as provide a market for the material. So that was kind of a real double win for us. And we demonstrated that we could effectively inactivate 99.9+% of viruses tested in 5 minutes at room temperature with our material in a real coating, something that you could paint on or spray on or whatever onto a surface. So technically, we had made a lot of progress. And then we got commitments from 3 different organizations, NOVA, which is a strategic investment company, for $300,000, another $100,000 from the Yukon Innovation Fund proof of concept. I think we were probably the first company to win that. And then another $100,000 from the Yukon Innovation Fund, because we are part of the TIP program and we're collaborating with professors at Yukon, we were eligible for that as well. And we now have angel investment as well. So we were able to raise private money. We converted our phase 1 SBIR, which was $200,000, into a phase 2, which is a minimum of $1 million over 16 months. And if we're successful with that, another $500,000 for 8 months. So it's been a wild and very successful ride for us. We started the company with just 2 of us. A former colleague of mine and I started the company. We've now added a 3rd person. We're looking for more technical help in the lab and eventually marketing and sales a little later. And we've got a board now and funding. So we're off and running. And I would highly recommend the ABCT program to anybody. We were an odd duck, right? I mean, we were doing materials development in a world of diagnostics and clinical trials and things like that. But for us, it was a real plus. And happy to answer any and all questions about it.
Thank you, Larry. It really is extraordinary. When we had a chance to meet you and your ceramic material coming out of the battery business was described as having these antiviral, antibacterial um, uh, characteristics, and you were interested to explore that. That's a real challenge to then figure out what does that mean and where do you go with that. So it was a fun opportunity for us too to kind of dig in and in the middle of a pandemic to have a chance to talk to a lot of people. What do they think about this material and how they could use it? But a lot of interest in this. One of the things that you have a background, and maybe you want to talk a little bit about that in business before, and what the other people who were in your coaching group, what their background was. Can you say a little bit about that?
Sure. So the other thing that I think differentiated NanoIonics, differentiated me from most of the other people in the cohort is I'm a whole lot older and have had a lot more experience in technology development in business and things like that. I've been in big companies most of my career, although I've helped to start half a dozen probably small companies. But this is the first one that I'm actually the CEO and founder of. So it's, it is a little different experience than being, say, the chief technology officer or chief operating officer, which I've done in other startups. There were three of us in the coaching group, and Martin is fantastic, by the way, as a coach. And with very different backgrounds. One kind of a undergrad, I guess, sort of bio background, bioengineering background, and then an MBA. And then the second is a card-carrying, hardcore scientist with absolutely no business background. And, we all learn from each other. I spent 7 years of my career working in the government, so I kind of know how that system works. And so I could kind of help people think about, government grants, and they provided insight, and feedback to me of, sort of my presentation and directions we're going and suggestions of people to talk to and things like that. So it's not just your coach that you learn from, but it's the other people in your group that can be very, very helpful in your progress in the program.
Yeah, I think, Larry, I totally agree. One of the things that I learned when I was doing startups was how much I learned from other entrepreneurs. Now, because you're facing so many of the same issues, even if it's not the same business, being able to have a chance to talk to somebody else who is a founder going through it is just extraordinarily valuable because they sort of get it. What you're faced with. Now, you had a chance to work at this full time. What was the circumstances of some of the members in your coaching group?
So of the three of us in our coaching group, I mean, yeah, it was sort of full time for me, but then we're running the company and things like that. So, I mean, we had real technical work we had to get done. It wasn't just doing ABCT full time. And then we had one person who was also doing this, I would say, pretty much full time, trying to raise money for her company and all, getting it off the ground and all. And she had participated in a couple of other incubator programs. And then the third person was again, hardcore technical person working in the lab, writing papers, et cetera, trying to figure out how to spin out the technology and make it into a real company. So he was sort of, dual hatted, if you will, doing his day job. And then this is, in his quote, spare time.
Right. Right. So it's people who have different, um, they're in different places with uh, their startup, with uh, their movement from academics out, from other responsibilities in business to a startup to maybe this particular technology that they came in to work on with ABCT. So it's an effort where people are pretty active in a lot of different things when you get a chance to meet them. Um, so one of the other things that I talked about a little bit was about the varieties of technologies that were in it. You talked about your technology, which was unique, right? Um, in the material with the virus shell. When you think about some of the other ventures and the technologies that were in it, what was it like to be with people who had totally different technologies? I mean, was there something, was it just so foreign that how does that end up working for you? Is it helpful? Is it distracting?
Um, I would say it's helpful for a couple of different reasons. One is you see different approaches to how people are looking at the market, looking at bringing a technology into the to make a difference in the world. But it also helps you in the sense that you're going to go through in these coaching sessions and giving your pitch, and what is and it's great having somebody who is technically strong but is not an expert in your area going, I don't get it. What is it that you're really trying to say? And all, because you sort of develop, whether it's a pitch presentation to investors or an executive summary that you're writing or whatever, right? And it is somewhat insular, but having people with a strong background, and all, just providing feedback, but not, again, being experts in your area, I actually think is more useful than having somebody who just, is an expert in your area, because they can provide, I think, more realistic feedback, because most of the people you're talking to will not be real experts.
Was that a surprise to you that the people you would be talking with would not be real experts in your area?
Oh no, I mean, I've done this for many years, and it's
Mhm.
just I always seem to sort of seek out people who have different backgrounds. Back in the day when I was actually hiring lots of people, um, I used to tell them that your degree is not something which you learned, whether it's a PhD or a master's, bachelor's, whatever. What you did as a student is not what you're going to do when you actually come into a company or into an organization. Your degree is a license to think. And so, that's what you've learned, right? It's not taking tests and things like that. It's really thinking and solving problems. So, reaching out to people who are smart and care and things like that, and can give you honest feedback, is something that I've done. So I wasn't surprised by that at all.
Yeah, it's uh I think it can be kind of a surprise. I think it's one of the real benefits of this, that you've got people who are all they get to know your technology in these coaching groups, but they're not running it, and you develop this trust about their feedback, which helps you kind of um, uh, as Larry's saying, be able to communicate with other people who also aren't going to necessarily know about your technology. And what an incredible opportunity that is, so that when you're meeting totally new people who aren't going to know about your technology, you'll already have heard some of the questions, and that people will be asking based on how you start describing what it is that you do. Um, so um, what's your next step, Larry? What are you going to be doing next now that you've got, I am trying to count up all the money. It's you're kind of
Yeah,
closing 2
yeah,
million, 2.5 million here.
right, with the government money. So our business model was, was always, well, twofold. One is use non-dilutive government funds as much as possible, as long as it makes sense. We don't want to be just, kind of research for hire and just go after government grants. But if we can get government money, non-dilutive money that is, fits with what we want to do as a company, that's absolutely critical. So, so that will continue. The second thing is that we never wanted to build a big factory and generate lots of materials. Contrary to what the state of Connecticut wants, which is, hiring lots of people and, et cetera, et cetera, that just, it is not in the cards for us. That for us is not the fun part, if you will, of the innovation and bringing a product to market. So now that we have a joint development partner, that is great, because it immediately takes the burden off of us. So our big next steps is, one, we're moving the technology forward. We're starting to talk to customers. We're getting feedback from customers about what they like and don't like, and addressing those issues, as well as we now need to execute on our next phase of our government grant. So we're busy moving forward on multiple fronts.
Can you, I mean, it's really exciting to hear. And I think the multiple front part of this is something that it seems like it's a common theme. You started with a technology that could go into a number of areas, and now you've got multiple fronts with a lot of money to propel you forward. One of the things, though, might be helpful, say a little bit more about non-dilutive funding and what that means and why you went after that. Why not, if you have something that's so valuable, why not just go raise money and proceed from there?
So, okay. So two things. One is, raising money is always difficult, especially if you want to raise a lot of money. And for us, we are in a strange situation. Generally funding organizations, whether it's an angel group or a venture group, or even CT Innovations, they like to invest in something they kind of know something about. And we're
I need
kind
to
of
check
in
my
the
phone
middle.
because I think I'm late.
And in the sense that we don't neatly fit into the bio or the healthcare bucket, which is a big, as Mary said, is a big effort for CT Innovations, and we don't neatly fit into sort of the nanotech bucket, because our materials are closer to micron scale. We don't neatly fit into the sort of sustainability bucket, so we don't easily fit into any obvious places where people are going, yeah, we're going to throw a lot of money at this. And so, writing the SBIR proposals did a couple of things. One, it really forced us to focus on, what we know, what we don't know, where we're going, what we're going to do, et cetera, et cetera. And also to really articulate where we're differentiated from the competition. And even then, it took several tries to gain funding, because the feedback we got was, yeah, your material will never work. Yeah, but hey, folks, here's the data that show that it does. Or your material isn't stable. Well, here's the data that shows. So we got a lot of, because people don't understand what we're doing, until we sort of got our first funding, and then we were really off and running. And then when we really showed the results were actually far better than we even initially expected. They were really happy and, are kicking in the next round of funding. But, raising government money is tough, but it's also tough raising private money.
Yeah, I think that's something that I mean, and you've raised money very quickly for a startup. A lot of people will wait a long time before they can actually get an SBIR pulled together, and have the support also of state. I think Connecticut's really unusual in how much support that is available for a startup. What was it like to work with Connecticut Innovations to get funding from and support from them?
It was sort of finding the right person or people is really critical. And also we have a champion at CI who is kind of helping to move everything through, and it's Constantine, and he now runs what's called the Proof of Concept Fund. But again, it's like anything else, finding the right people, networking, et cetera, is absolutely critical, and all. There's a bunch of paperwork involved. I would say the biggest challenge is not so much Connecticut Innovations or Nova or the Yukon Innovation Fund or whatever. It's the fact that we have multiple people that we're getting money from. And everybody says, yeah, this sounds really good. Oh, but the paperwork and the terms you agreed to with these other ones, well, we don't like those. We want it this way. And we took the unusual tack, because people told us we were crazy, but we took the unusual tack last spring of saying, hey guys, look, we're we want to work with you, but you guys have to be able to work with each other. So go talk amongst yourselves. You guys figure it out, and all, and then come back to us with a consistent picture of what you want in terms of not only dollars, but the term and the these, we raised convertible notes, what the conversion rates were, all of the details. And then we sort of negotiated with them as a group, because we had some unique things that we wanted to make sure were in there. But, having different people interested in funding you was a bigger challenge, I think, than we initially realized. But, we took that rather bold move, and for us, at least, it paid off.
Great. I mean, I think one of the things that's um, uh, not as well understood is that everything's negotiable, and that templates don't always work for everybody. And coming to a decision about how you want to proceed and putting that out there can be a very effective approach to getting and keeping the ball rolling. So I think it's courage is underrated as an entrepreneur. It's
Well, yeah, that, and I mean, my belief, and I've raised money with other companies and things like that, and that is that it's not just dollars in the door, right? I mean, yes, you need money to pay the rent and, buy equipment or, materials or whatever. But what is, in my mind, more important are the connections that come with the money. So a strategic investor, well, connections to customers. The folks at Connecticut Innovations, we are really important, and all. I mean, Constantine said, "Hey, you want an introduction to the submarine folks in Groton?" Right? Well, think about it, right? You've got lots of people crammed into a very small space in a submarine for a long time. Diseases run rampant, and that's and all. And so it's just sort of a great thing that comes with our working with with him and with CI. So don't just think of dollars, think of what comes with the dollars, which can be equally, if not more valuable.
Well, when you say, considering submarines, that wasn't exactly your initial idea. Um, I think one of the things that, you're talking about is, um, in the background are all these plates you got spinning with all the things you're doing, and people are coming at you with even more ideas, 4 different term sheets from Novo and Yukon and Connecticut Innovations and Angels. And so, how do you manage this, both the amount that's now working that you're working on and the continued influx of new ideas, new connections? How do you manage this rich environment that you've created with your innovation?
That's actually, either a blessing or a curse for us. I can't tell you how many times we got beat up during the ABCT program of, hey, you got to focus, choose one thing to go after. And our response was, yeah, if we knew the one thing that was going to work, we would go after just that. But we are in a target rich environment, and we have to see what's really going to pan out. We had a call today with the Office of Naval Research to talk about anti-fouling coating applications and all. And so we presented some preliminary data that we had collected, and he goes, great, this looks really good. Why don't you send two of his contractors some samples to test, so that they can do kind of an apples to apples comparison. So no money from them per se, but the fact that they're willing to test our materials is a real plus. So yes, you're right. We have a lot of balls in the air, and we've probably let a few drop, and we've got to pick them up again, and all. But that's the challenge of being an entrepreneur. And the other thing I should mention is that the three of us now who are really the bulk of the work in the company. Dana and I have worked together on and off for 10 years. Leo and I have worked together on and off for 20 plus years. And our new board member now, I've known him for 25 years. So getting people that you know and respect and trust is really, really critical. And so, being able to, offload some of the work on other people is good.
Larry, it's really incredible to chat with you. I'm going to just take a break and say to people, if you want to hear some more about about entrepreneurship in the biosciences, leave your email in chat, and we'll put you on our newsletter, which will list upcoming events that we've got. I just to come back to this, being an entrepreneur and working with people for a period of time. One of the things that we have seen is that a quarter of the people who come through the program are serial entrepreneurs. They've already started another venture, and you have started multiple ventures. Can you talk a little bit about that? You've been in a number of ventures, and now you're founding your own one. But that's a career that isn't what all people have, right? They're not always in a startup. Can you talk a little bit about that, and how you've come to work with a couple of people and come back to work with them over years?
Sure. So, as I said earlier, I spent most of my career working in big organizations. Although in those organizations, I was helping to spin out startups, taking technology, licensing it, and working with startups. And I've worked with a few startups since then. So, I mean, you learn a lot by making mistakes, may be too strong a word because I call them learning opportunities, but you learn a lot by doing, and you got to get out there and do it. And even if you're not sure whether the ABCT program is is the right thing for you, just filling out the application process, going through it, you learn a lot. Being part of the cohort, you learn a lot. And yes, it takes time, but the more you learn, the better you're gonna be at it. And you learn from other people that you work with, whether it's professors or other entrepreneurs. You learn from colleagues, you learn from lots of different places. And you just got to start. And it's interesting because in my view, the two best times to start a company are when you're young and when you're old. And our kids are grown and out of the house and things like that. And it's like, hey, we can start a company, and if it doesn't pan out as much, you know, we'll still survive, we'll still eat, and all. Um, and that, and you have sort of established a network with a lot of people. But when you're young, you've got the energy and the drive and all that to make it happen. And fellow students or people you've met at other places as founders or co-founders rather. And it's really a great time to start something.
Well, it's really incredible, as we've run this program for 10 years in New York City and Connecticut. For now, this will be the 5th year, in Westchester for 3 years. We have seen from people who are 20 to people who are in their early 70s in the program. And I know that was a real surprise to New York City when we first started. But I think that this strikes you when it strikes you, and it works when it's the right time, and you kind of know it, and you can't kind of get away from it. This whole idea of getting this venture going. So I applaud that, and I think people ought to be aware. It happens all sorts of times.
Yeah, and being flexible, right? I mean, we started as a battery company, and people go, well, this is really weird, right? You guys know energy, batteries, sustainability, green technologies, how the heck did you get involved with this? And I actually made a spreadsheet showing all of the similarities between what we're doing and what you do in a battery company. And the thought process to develop the materials, the scale up of the materials, the testing, characterization of the materials, all virtually identical. The only difference is the application area. That's the big difference. And just having the background that we do in sort of the material side and in the energy space has actually helped us a huge amount, because we understand scale up, we understand cost of manufacturing, we understand materials choices and how it impacts the properties of what it is we're trying to do. So just because you don't have a background in something, doesn't mean that you can't do it. So people being open to learning, open to pivoting and trying something new is will be I think a greater chance of success than just sort of saying, hey, this is what I know, this is the only thing I know, and this is the only thing I'm going to do to start a company.
Yeah, I think you're talking about so many qualities that are so important, and venture funders look for it. Because they know it's so important. The world changes, and they want to be backing people who are going to take advantage of the opportunities, and they're going to get out of things that aren't working anymore, and they're be able to address the new innovations and take advantage of them, and to address new markets. It's a real characteristic of people who are successful. So thank you, Larry. I know we've gone over at 6:03. I want to really, really appreciate what you have done to come back and share and chat a little bit about being an entrepreneur. Thank you very, very much, Doug, for having the opportunity to come and speak with your group. It's a blast to be able to have someone like Larry talk. We're very much encouraging people to apply if they're interested in this. Feel free to reach out. Madeline will put my email in there, and attend a strengthening your application workshop if you're serious about applying. And if it's next year, that's better. Come back next year. But thank you very, very much for the opportunity, Doug. I'll turn it back to you.
Well, thank you. I was wondering if it makes more sense if people have questions, if they shouldn't put them in the chat, because if we all start talking at once, it'll be too difficult to organize people. There's still 52 people logged in, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions out there. So if people wouldn't mind putting them into the chat, that'd be great. And then Mary, maybe you'd like to see if any questions come up.
Sure. And I'll keep Madeline, if you've seen some of the questions come through, let's make sure we don't miss them, and we can address them. And this is really an incredible opportunity to also talk with Larry, who's here. So if you have any questions for him, especially, please address them also to him.
I personally would like to hear a little bit more about the technology. And maybe Larry, you'd like to say a couple of words about that?
Sure. So without giving away the secret sauce, we have developed a material that spontaneously generates what are called reactive oxygen species, which are highly reactive species that can inactivate viruses, kill bacteria, fungi, or whatever. And people have known about reactive oxygen species. In fact, people have known about generation of reactive oxygen species on ceramics for years, but generally you need UV light or you need an electrical source or something like that to generate them. But in fact, you don't. You can actually generate them spontaneously. We're not breaking any laws of physics or thermodynamics or whatever. And it's a question of making the right material with the kind of the right doping levels and things like that, and it works.
We've got a question. What does it take to start a company from scratch? You want to take that one, Larry? You've started the company from scratch.
Sure, why not? So there are different kinds of people who start companies. There are people who say, I just want to start a company and then sell it and make a lot of money. Yeah, that's not a good way of I don't think of looking at things. Generally, you need an idea, right? What is it you're passionate about? What is it that's going to make a difference in the world? And in the bio space, it's hard to find something that isn't going to make a difference. Do you have, a new diagnostic for a disease? Do you have a new way of testing things in the lab? Do you have a new therapeutic? Almost anything you come up with is going to make a difference. So, having an idea is important. And, it's really easy to understand the market, at least at the 10,000 foot level, right? Google is fantastic because you can, you can learn a lot about what the market might be for your technology or your application. And once you sort of go, yeah, this kind of is important, and yeah, it's going to make a difference in the world, then you can think about, okay, now here's what we need, right? Is this a software thing that you can sit there and write in your apartment or whatever with friends? Do you need a lab, right? And if you need a lab, okay, how are you going to do that? We have a lab in Farmington as part of the Yukon Technology Innovation Program, which is fantastic space and all. But maybe the easiest way to do it is to collaborate with a professor somewhere. So you sort of have to think through what is it that you're going to do, and then kind of how long is it going to take, right? If you're coming up with a new therapeutic, you got years ahead of you, and a lot of money that you're going to have to raise, unless you're going to do some early stage stuff and then sell out to somebody if it looks like it's working or whatever. If you have a diagnostic, it's a much shorter period. Are there, in our case, there are applications far outside of kind of the healthcare field, and the barriers to entry and the time to entry is a whole lot less. So you got to figure out how long it's going to take, and then how you're going to go about doing it, right? Who are the right people? Generally one person isn't going to make everything happen. So finding friends, colleagues, collaborators, and my recommendation is, one, find people that you can work with and work well together, and two, I don't want to use the word outsource because that sort of implies, you're paying somebody to do something. It's more collaborating, right? Find professors, find grad students, find people who might be interested in what you're doing and work with them. We made the decision that we're not going to sit there and do all the biological testing in our lab. Just takes too long, too expensive, whatever. Let's find a professor or professors who can help out and do that. So finding people that you can work with will really accelerate your progress and also minimize the risks and the costs.
Fantastic. We got one more question, and I think we may have to wrap it up then. Are you up for one more, Larry?
Sure.
Okay, one more question. Okay, so here's the question. How much does a market gap matter? Is it a good or bad to start a company based on a market gap? How big does the market gap need to be?
Well, I mean, I hate to say it all depends, but it really all depends, right? Because it's a question: is it a real market gap? Is it a perceived market gap? Are you really going to go 100% to addressing that gap, or are you going to go 2% along the path to address that gap? So it really comes down to the details of what the gap is, and and how your solution will close that gap, and how quickly you can close it. One of the things that people, I mean, and this happens all the time, whether you're a funding organization in the government, whether you're a venture capital, you look at, oh, this is a really cool technology, and yeah, there's a really strong team, and yes, it'll close this gap, and it will take, I'm making this up, 5 years to bring the technology to market. But you also have to make sure that there isn't somebody using conventional technology out there, or whatever, that is going to do pretty much closing that gap in less time and less money. And I mean, there are countless examples of people funding, whether it's new solar cells or new kinds of software or whatever, where they just kind of ignore the fact that, the conventional progress that people are making are going to close the gap long before you are. So you need to be open and honest with yourself about what it is you're really trying to do. And if you say there's no competition out there, you're lying to yourself.
Thank you very, very much, Larry. This has been just such a pleasure to have you here and answer the questions. People got a real opportunity to hear from an entrepreneur, someone who's been in multiple startups, been working with startups for a while. Thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing your story today.
Oh,
I'm going to turn it back to you, Doug. And
Very good. Thank you, Larry. And Mary, next month, we're going to have Scott Purcell, founder and chief trust officer of Prime Trust, and he's going to talk to us about the tokenization of securities. This has been a pet project for a number of our IACT members. And of course, this is one of those things that's really a hot button topic. And I think we're going to get a lot of interest from our audience on that. So thank you once again. And this is good. This has been recorded, and I plan on posting it very soon, but I'll send it to you, Mary, first for vetting.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Good
Bye-bye,
luck.
everybody.
Bye-bye
so
now.
long.